Hi y'all, so in today's video I want to show you how to make just a pretty simple modal using Tailwind CSS with Vue, and this is just going to be a simple interactive modal that you can customize and use in several different scenarios. Eventually I'll be showing you an example of how to add this into an app such as the Slack clone app that we've been building, but for now I'll show you first how to make it. Alright, so let's get right into it. So first I've set up a test page just at the route /test. I'm just giving us a blank slate to test our modal on. And so starting us off, I've just made a component under components and util because this is like a utility component that we can use across the application. So first I want to make the background of the modal, the part that kind of blurs out and helps focus the attention on the modal. And so first we're going to start with a div, and we want it to be slightly opaque at opacity 25. And we're going to make it a background black so that it's kind of blurring out everything. And then we're also going to want to use this fixed positioning. And what this is going to do is that no matter where you put this modal on the DOM, so like whether it's nested like 10 elements down or at the root level, it will always be in the same position because it's fixed positioning. And so we'll do inset 0. And what this does is basically puts it at the top right corner. It starts it off at the top right corner and it'll take up the whole screen. And we're going to give it a z index of 40. And that's going to become important later because we want it to be above all the other elements but not above the actual modal itself. Alright, so next we're going to create our modal body, and first we're going to start with a wrapper div, and we're going to do it similar to the background div. We want it to cover the whole screen and have a fixed positioning. So again, we're going to do this with fixed positioning with inset 0. And we're going to give it a z index of 50, so it's above the background. Finally, we want it to be a flex so that it will center the modal inside of it. And so we'll do justify center item center. Then we'll create the modal body inside. And so we want it to be a flex with flex column because the modal is going to have 3 sections, the header, body, and footer, and we want these to be stacked vertically. And so we're also going to add a max width of just around 5XL. You can modify this to fit your needs, but we just want it to have some type of max width. And then we're going to make it rounded. We want to give it a box shadow, and the background should be white. Okay, and so now we just need to make the content of the modal, and this part's like pretty straightforward. So I'm just going to do 3 divs, and we want to give each kind of some padding. The top part will be a little bit less padding since it's the header, and so we want it to be kind of outset from the others. And so for the header, we want it to have a title on the left side and then the X button on the right side. So we'll use a div with flex and justify between. This will put this maximum space between the 2 elements. And we'll do items start to align them at the top. Then we'll use an header 3 for the header. Let's give it text 2XL and a semi-bold font. You can do this inline, modal header. And then on the right side, we want it to have the X button. So let's first start with a button, give it some padding. Let's set leading to none because we want it to have a line height of 1 to make it easier to size this thing. And then we're going to wrap the inner part in a div. Let's make the text large, and we want semi-bold font. And we're going to give it a square size of width and height 6. Then we're just going to put the span with the X inside. And that should do it. Okay, so let's move on to the body. And there's really not much we have to do here. I mean, it's just going to be, we added some padding to this div and just have content inside, so let's just give it some content. Okay, so it's just something like this. Alright, so let's move on to the footer. And for the footer, it's pretty simple too. We just want 2 buttons and we want them to be on the bottom right. So let's use flex and say justify end, and then we'll say item center. Then we'll create 2 buttons using some button classes that I've created in my style.css. Give this one a margin on the left side. Say confirm. And that's pretty much it. So let's take a look and we see, okay, we have our 2 buttons here and header aligned with this X button, and this is the content. So that looks pretty good. Now, this by itself is not really useful, so we want to be able to open and close the modal, right? I'm going to use a diagram to help illustrate this, but to do that, we'll have a parent and a modal component, right? And so to open and close the modal, we will want to take a Boolean prop on the modal, and when this prop is true, the modal component will be shown, and when it's false, it won't, right? And the parent will pass this in as a prop, and the parent will be responsible for manipulating this variable. So for the parent to be able to manipulate this Boolean, we'll need to also emit some custom events for the parent to listen to, right? So whenever the cancel button or the X button or the confirm button is clicked in the modal component, we need to emit these events so that the parent will know, they can add a handler based on these events, custom events, and be able to do whatever logic that the parent needs to do for that. So let's first add the prop in. And let's call this is visible. And we want to import this, get that in. Okay, so we're going to want to conditionally render both of these divs based on the prop. So I suppose we could just toggle it here. Then let's add a data variable here. Modal visible is false, and let's pass this in as a prop. Is visible equals modal visible, and we want a way to toggle this to true. So let's add a button here, and that says open modal, and let's give it a click handler. And the click handler just sets it to true. Okay. And so here it's closed, we click it, and it opens. Great. And now we need a way to close the modal, right? So right now clicking the buttons doesn't do anything. We need to fix that. So when we click cancel, we want to add a click handler here. Say, call it emit cancel. And here we want to emit confirm. And on the X button, we also want to emit cancel whenever we click. And so we need to define these two methods, emit cancel and emit confirm. And for emit cancel, remember we want to emit this custom event, we'll just call it cancel. And here we also want to emit the custom event confirm. And now that we've done that, since we're emitting the event to the modal component using this .emit, we can only pick up on the event on the element itself, on this component itself. So we have to add the click handlers here. We have to add at cancel equals something, and then at confirm equals something. So for on the cancel, let's say modal visible equals false, and then on confirm, let's also make the visible equals false. Normally you could add some functions to handle confirm or handle cancel in here and do more logic, but right now we don't have any logic to add, so let's just do this. So now let's try this again with this page. We open it and we can cancel it, close it with any of these buttons. And so that's pretty much it. This is already a pretty solid modal. You could take this code, edit it, and use it in your project. But next week, I'm going to show you all how to use Vue Slots, and that will let you essentially use this modal really in any context very easily, because you can just change the content of say the body or the buttons using the Vue Slots syntax, as opposed to actually editing the file for every single use case. You can just use the same component, import it into many different other files, and use this modular format to use the modal. And so be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for next time if you're interested in that. And I'll see y'all next time.